Hey, I'm Shelly,
And I'm Angela,
and this is Real Talk Dating Exposed.
where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of dating in your 40s.
If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like us below.
And if you're listening to us on audio, please subscribe as well.
Now let's get into it.
Okay, so there's a lot of different ways you can meet someone, right? In person, online,
Yeah.
which is a lot of what we talk about, because it seems like with our society and just with how busy we are and we're go, the apps just seem to be convenient, right?
100%.
I mean, there's pros and cons to that, but do you think with the online dating apps that it has changed the dating experience, how we view dating?
I think it's fucked the dating game in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I mean, we're all on them, right? And I get that we have busy lives and we have to be on them. We don't have to be on them, but they do alleviate the pressures when you're older and you have kids at home. Or me, I just have a dog and I want to be on my couch. We've talked about this before. It makes it a lot easier to potentially meet someone, right? But I think
Yeah.
the downfall of that is that you're in a pool being based off of superficiality, a couple sentences about
Who knows
your
what?
life,
Yeah.
who knows what,
Yeah.
like with prompts or whatever, and then you're making a decision on like whether or not that should be someone you meet.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been guilty where it's like you can have, and listen, we all want physical attraction, right? But I think basing it just off of that is tragic. And
Yeah.
a lot of my past relationships have been very physically driven initially.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, obviously there was connections there on some level for it to progress into a relationship. But, you know, as I gotten older, I'm like, no, I care more about someone's character. There needs to still be a connection.
Yeah.
But on the apps, like, how are you even seeing or feeling someone before you're judging them? And I know I've met people before that I'm like, oh my God, that's such a great guy. But I know on the apps, like
You would have swiped.
I would have never
Yeah.
swiped right. And so
Yeah.
it's like this weird catch-22.
Well, I mean, I recently had an experience where I was out, met someone in person, and I've actually, like, I remember seeing his face on the dating apps and I'd swiped.
Swiped which way?
Left.
Okay. But then
Met
you
him
saw
in person, and I was just like, okay, I like this guy's vibe. Like, I mean, we went on several dates and had a great time and ultimately like decided to part ways just because of timing. But I would have never, and I even told him this, like I would have never swiped on him because he wasn't my typical
Type.
like tattoos, dark hair, light eyes, like not my typical type. But like I would have missed that opportunity. Well, I did miss the opportunity, but then it came around in real life. So that has definitely opened my eyes to be a little bit less stringent on my type.
But so are you approaching the apps differently now? So like knowing that when you're going into the apps now and seeing someone, how are you handling it differently?
Yeah. So I found myself being a little bit more lenient on the height. Because remember, I've always like 6'2" or taller.
Slack for the height comments.
yeah.
We know you're tall and beautiful, but
yeah, I definitely don't want to be taller. But like I've like considering people that are 5'11" or 6 foot. Where in the past I'm like, okay, it had to be 6'2" or taller. Also how they look. I mean, yes, there is an attraction piece, but like attraction is going to eventually fade. And I acknowledge that. And I certainly want to be attracted to someone. I also think that connection, personality, the energy between the two people can increase the attraction.
100%.
So let's say they're a 6, but like everything else is there. They're probably going to be like a 9 in my book because it's like you ask the right questions and you're connected and you're curious and like you can push me and I can push you. I'd much
that's
rather
sexy.
Yeah, that 100%. So
then
that's
someone
gonna,
that's pretty to look at. I mean,
And
have
just
you ever
a
had it the other
wall.
way where you're like, oh my God, I've gone on dates where I've been like, oh my God, they're so attractive. And then after the date, I was like, that's a hard no.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you feel like, no, they're not anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it
yeah.
goes both ways.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I have found it. I mean, I would say probably the last 3 people that I've been on dates with are not my typical type. So yeah, it has opened my eyes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
do you feel that dating on apps, like have you had experiences where you do feel like that instant gratification has like killed the dating game? Like, do you feel like the apps are killing the dating game? Like if you had an experience that made you feel that way, like what's your oversight on like the apps in general?
I absolutely do because again, I think it's you're removing that human connection, right? Like now we're just swiping. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a dopamine hit. Like we're like you get like you see one and you're like, "Oh, this is this is exciting, right? And then you start texting back and forth, and there's just like there is a chemical reaction that happens, whether we're aware of it or not. I notice it
For sure. When you get
um
excited.
yeah,
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, what, I mean, your mind can go in several different directions, right? But it's like, okay, what's our first date gonna look like, and like what is that gonna feel like when I see them, and are they gonna show up the way that they present themselves online? And so there is definitely that chemical reaction that I don't think that you necessarily get in person. The reaction you get in person is just so much more natural, where it's
sure.
like you're naturally going to be drawn to someone that you're attracted to and has the right energy and connection that you're looking for, right?
For sure.
And then also I think there's a lot of components of like, how many people do you talk to at once, right? Like I know my bandwidth, and I'm probably tapped at like 3.
Yeah.
4 maybe max. But even then, like I am so intentional that it's like, how soon can I quickly figure out if this is an alignment or not? Because ultimately I just want to be talking to one,
For
right?
sure. And that's where you and I differ, and we talk about this too, is that I tend to find like if there's one that I feel connected with on some level, I know it's everyone says like don't put all your eggs in one basket, but like I don't want multiple baskets. So I kind of lead more into like, okay, I'm interested in seeing where this is going to go before I muddy it with someone else. And I know there's mixed emotions and feelings around that. You and I differ that way. I'm just old school that way. I have a hard time if I do feel like, okay, I do want to see the potential of this relationship, or if it even could be a relationship. I don't want to add someone else in that mix. And I get that that's, you know, I don't know. Everyone's different, right?
But I think you're talking to several people before you get to that point, right?
Totally.
Like it's not like you're just going to be like, okay, I matched with one person and I'm going to see where this goes.
No, I'm saying once
it's
you
like
meet.
Once you meet, you're like, okay, I don't know that I've been in a situation. Well, I have, but like, I think also the more often you date, the more you're like, okay, I like this. I don't like that. There could be potential here, but like, I need to sit with this person a little bit longer.
Yeah, you become, 7 years in the game. I feel like I'm a professional, and I know now on the first date whether or not, because I've been on a million, like literally no lie, a million first dates, like over the course of the last decade. And you learn quick, you know, and it's, you want to feel something. And you and I talk about this too. You don't want to feel like total overkill butterflies, because sometimes that's like Fast and Furious equals like crash and burn. I look at it that way. But if you don't feel any excitement, you want to feel excited.
Yeah, I mean, there's been dates that I've gone on where I leave neutral, and then I ended up spending more time with them, and then ultimately, like, there was a reason why I was feeling that way. And so it's just understanding and listening to your intuition and gut first. I think there's also a component of online dating where it's like, is the grass greener, right? Like, I have so many options. So, like, how do I narrow it down to one if I have A, B, C, and D over here that are also like really fun and could be potential, right? So I think there's also that component where, again, removing that, like, these are humans on the other side.
Totally. But I feel like that component's removed. Have you ever dated someone but thought to yourself like, oh, but if I just swipe a little more, I might find someone more? Like everything was so good about this person, but they were lacking this, and I'm sure I could find it if I keep swiping.
I personally haven't.
No.
Have you?
No, but I feel like I hear that a lot on the guy side of things. Like I think men can get a good package in front of them, but then they're like, but I'm one swipe away from perfection or whatever. I mean, I have heard that.
Do you think it's because men are more visual?
I feel like men are visual. I think, I'm not trying to, I don't know what it is. I mean, men, tell us if that's true. I mean, do you feel like you're looking for the next best thing? If you get something good in front of you, do you want to, I think what I often see is that they don't want to see it through. If there's potential there, then men could sometimes, like, if it takes a little bit more work to get, if you see the potential with the person in front of you, but it may take a little work and like the harder conversations, do they want to do that, or is it easy to just go back to the pool and find another one?
Well, then I would say they're not emotionally available.
Agree, but we know a lot that aren't.
So I don't
that are in the dating pool that aren't emotionally available.
And it goes for both men and women. But I would say in that situation, like, it's not that there's more options out there, and maybe it's just that they don't want to have those hard conversations. And I think a really great woman or man that's sitting across the table is going to expect those conversations. I want to have the hard conversations like as quickly as we possibly can. Like, what makes you uncomfortable? Like, what are you feeling? You and I were just talking about this yesterday. Yeah. Like, because I want to see how that person's going to be able to navigate that conversation and can we even, I don't want to say conflict because there's no conflict in the beginning, but like, there is that component of just being like, can we navigate a hard conversation?
Yeah, well, it's like having the hard one, but I think that scares a lot of people. We've learned this.
Well, then they're not our people.
Agree. So I think that's where people can be like, well, you two can be aggressive or you're very forward. Well, we do that for a reason, right? We want to know that you're able to have those tough conversations and that you're going to, the fun and frilly dates are great. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, are you going to be able to man up when shit hits the fan or when something's bothering us and we need to talk about it? Like, are you going to be able to handle that?
Yeah. Or if something bothers them, can they bring it to us? And can we give them what they need?
For sure. So do you feel like anyone ever thinks it's too much too soon when we come at them like that?
No, because I feel like our approach, I mean, regardless of what people see online, like we genuinely are nice, kind people and we care. And so
you're saying we don't come off online like we're genuinely nice, caring people?
I mean, not TikTok. TikTok doesn't think so. But so I think that like we give men a safe, comfortable space to land and to be able to communicate. So no, I think it's easier. I mean, I get told all the time, like, I just feel so comfortable around you and it's easy to talk to you and you're very calming. So then naturally I'm going to get men that probably open up faster than maybe someone else that doesn't give them that space.
For sure.
Which I actually love because those are the conversations I want to be having anyways.
Yeah. And I feel like that's rare in the dating world, even on both sides, to walk into a scenario or situation and sit across from someone and feel that safeness.
Yeah.
So it's good that you provide that or that men give you that feedback that like, hey, I do feel safe around you, and it is giving them a space then to open up quicker to give you what you want to know.
Right.
Another question is, at what point do you have a conversation then if you're dating someone and say you both are on apps? Like, do you ever have a dialogue of like, okay, are you going to get off the apps now? Like, is this a thing?
I think it is a thing.
What?
Yeah, you have that conversation. You would have to. Yeah, you would have to. But I mean, I think it would just fall in line with the conversation of like, hey, like I'm enjoying my time with you. Like I haven't been going on any other dates. Like have you? Like there's no wrong or right answer because we're not here in the land of like trying to force people to do things that they don't want to do. So, but I think you can also get a gauge. Like, are there nights where they don't respond back to you?
Shady.
Right?
Yeah. Shady behavior.
Not necessarily shady because like we're in the dating stages, but like
for sure.
It definitely like
puts a
little antenna up.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, I'm like, okay, got to keep my eye on this. And then just maybe next time in person, just be like, ask questions because I'm also not going to assume maybe they just fall asleep, So I don't let my mind like try to
take you there,
figure it out. Yeah. But it's also like if someone is attentive and communicative and they're spending a lot of time with me. I mean, we've talked about this, right? Like that's really all I need in the beginning. But then there's a point where you're just like, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to a point where you're like, are they
I
still
want to see where this
swiping?
goes. Like I'm enjoying my time. Like, how are you feeling? Are there any areas that maybe you're not comfortable with? Like, let's talk through this. And then, at that point you can kind of get a gauge on where they're at and then you can figure out if you want to move it forward. But I don't have a problem being like, okay, so now that we're focused on just the two of us, I'm getting off the apps. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. It's just such a weird thing, right? I just feel like,
but if you don't have that conversation, I think you're going to be thinking it.
Oh yeah, no, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
The conversation's not weird. I just think it's weird that we're even saying like, are we going to get off apps? Like,
yeah.
Where are we going to be 10 years from now? I feel like it's just, it's evolved so differently dating over time that like, I remember the days where that wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
And now here we are like, are you going to get off an app? What apps are you on? But agree. So overall, do you feel like apps kill the game, help the game, neutral, both?
Both. I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's both. Because, I mean, I've met people who are genuinely good people that I would have never met had we not been online because our lives wouldn't have crossed paths to begin with.
For sure.
But I think the more aware and cognizant you are of everything we just talked about, then you can just approach it a little bit differently and have conversations around that,
I agree.
What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
I met some really good guys. Not all that worked out. I mean, potential right now. We'll see. There is one, but you don't know. Either way, he's a great guy, and we'll see. I know, the potential can be out there if you're open. I think it's just it's like a numbers game almost. And I think the better you become at knowing who you are and what you want and what you don't want, and then figuring that out faster, it makes it easier to not waste as much time. Granted, we don't know who we're going to sit across from at a table once we actually meet.
Yeah.
But there are good dudes out there. Yeah. Just like there are good girls, even though we laugh about the catfishing and all the other bullshit that goes into it.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Okay, we'll wrap this one up.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you guys aren't following us on all the platforms, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, go give us a follow.
Thanks for listening.